story that we're going to talk about this morning is about a man named Gideon. And Gideon didn't think he was very important. He thought everybody else was probably more important than him. And the angel appeared to Gideon and said, I want you to be the warrior that leads the children of Israel out of their slavery and out of their bondage to the Midianites. And you're going to be the one that I've chosen to do this job. It's going to be up to you. And Gideon says, I'm the least of my father's house. We're the smallest tribe. But Gideon did do what the Lord asked. And the first thing he did is he went and he tore down a worship place that was for a different god than the Lord. The people of the city, it said, came to Joash, his father, and said, bring out your son, that he may die, because he tore down the altar of Baal, and because he's cut down the wooden images that were beside it. And Joash said, well, let the people who follow Baal stand up for him. And they all thought, But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew the trumpet, and those then followed him. Those from Manasseh and Asher and Zebulun and Naphtali. Those are various tribes that lived in the neighborhood where he was. And they followed him. But Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, look, I will put a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew on the fleece only, and it is dry on the ground, then I shall know that you will save Israel by my hand. And so it was. When he arose early the next morning, he squeezed the fleece together, he wrung dew out of the fleece, and it filled a bowl of water. Gideon said to the Lord, don't be angry with me, but let me speak once more. Let me test, I pray, just once more the fleece. Now let it be dry on the fleece and wet all around with dew. And God did so that night. It was dry on the fleece only, but all the ground around was wet. What do you think about Gideon's test? Now, you know, this isn't a real piece of wool. That would be cruel. But it's good enough, right? Is it dry? What do you think? Is it wet or dry? Dry. It's dry. What do you think? Think I could get it wet? Dry. You think I could get it wet? Yeah. What would I do to get it wet? Yes? I dunk it in water, right? You think this is a dry one or a wet one? What do you think? How's it feel to you? Very dry, very dry, very dry. Have you seen the sheep that are out in the front garden? You've noticed them? You've noticed them? Yeah, it's amazing how a flock of sheep ended up in our front garden. Do you think they're wet or dry this morning? They're probably really wet. It's been raining and raining and raining, and they're probably really cold too. But in the story of Gideon, did he leave the fleece outside for it to get rained on? What was the story about? Was it rain that got the fleece wet? Do you know what the difference is between rain and dew? What is it? Dew happens early in the morning, she says, when it gets cooler outside and the humidity in the air settles down. It doesn't rain. It's just like a fog or a mist. It settles down. And it lands on the ground. And so Gideon said, when in the morning I pick up my fleece, if it's wet and everything else is dry, then I'll know that you really want me to do this job. And sure enough, he picked up the fleece, he wrung it out, he filled a bowl of water with all the dew that had been on the fleece. Now you think 2 days in a row it's going to be dew in the morning, or maybe one day it's dew and one day it's not? We don't really know. And Gideon said, well, let me just test you. And he said, Lord, don't be angry with me. Gideon was afraid, wasn't he? Gideon didn't really know. Was the Lord really with him? Did the Lord really want him to do this job? Yeah, the Lord really did. And so he said, let me test you again. How about the ground around is wet and the fleece will be dry? So this could be like the fleece on the second day. All dry. All dry. You think if I had left this fleece outside last night, it'd be dry or wet? It'd be wet, but not with dew, as we've said. It's been raining. And sometimes we test the Lord. We think, Lord, show me a sign. Show me a sign. Show me that you really want me to do the things that you ask of me. When the Lord was working with the children of Israel, and in the Old Testament and even in the New Testament, he had various ways of showing signs. Nowadays, we really can't just say, I'm not going to do what the Lord asks until the Lord shows me a sign. What if I said, I really don't want to do the rest of this church service. Lord, show me a sign. Make the electricity all go off if you really want me to do that. Think that'd be a good way for me to figure out whether I wanted to finish the rest of the service this morning? Testing the Lord. You do what I want you to do, Lord. I don't want to do what you want me to do. You do what I want. I'll be in charge. And see, Gideon wasn't saying that, was he? He was just saying, I'm really afraid, show me. Because the angel of the Lord had already come to him, so he'd already had a miraculous thing happen. The angel of the Lord had come. So he said, help me out, Lord. He was really praying, show me a little bit more about how powerful you are. And the rest of the story of Gideon, we'll do it 2 more stories this series that we're doing in Sunday school and in church, that shows how Gideon really was following the Lord, and the Lord was really with him, and the Lord really wanted to tell Gideon, look, I'm the one that's going to be doing all of the really important and powerful things in your life. I'm the one who's really going to be doing all the important and powerful things in your life. Now that was a message to Gideon. Is that the message the Lord gives to you? I'm the one who's going to do all the important and powerful things in your life. What do you think? Yeah. Whether you have the sign of the fleece or whether you just reflect upon how much the Lord loves you and takes care of you. Or you think about the stories of the Word and how they move you and how important they are to you. The Lord wants us to know He's the one who does all the important, powerful, spiritual, good things for us. Gideon, when he was doing his work, he was taught over and over again to not trust in what he thought, but to trust in what the Lord was doing. To trust in the Lord, and the Lord would bring him victory. That's really one of the most important stories we find in the Gideon's ideas we find in the Gideon story. It's the Lord who's doing all the important and powerful things. If there's going to be a victory, will it be Gideon's victory or the Lord's victory? The Lord's victory. And in our own spiritual life, it's the Lord's victory. The Lord's the one who gives us the power to follow Him, to shun evil or turn away from what's wrong, and to continue to become angelic. Amen.